Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Naveed Arshad, and I am going to be presenting the Energy and Electric Vehicles Initiative at the School of Science and Engineering for this AB meeting 2021. So the Energy and Electric Vehicle Initiatives involve a number of people who are working with us in terms of nurturing and sustaining this initiative. We have the director, Dr. Fayaz Chaudhry. And then under the LUMS Energy Institute, we have certain labs and groups who are working on different areas. So we have the Sustainable Energy Informatics Lab, and we have the Energy and Power System Cluster, and then we have the Energy Informatics Group. A number of colleagues from both SBSCC and across LUMS are involved in projects of different kind at different levels of collaboration. And last but not the least, in fact, the most important workforce in our institute are the PhD students, the full-time employees, most of which are actually former LUM students, and then many BS, MS students as well as internees. So last year has been although because of the pandemic, things were not as physically connected, so we were not able to travel that much. However, we were able to do a number of things which we'll be describing in this short video. I think the biggest story that I think we feel proud of sharing with all the audience is that now the power sector or the power ministry is in the, you can say, the microscopic lens of the government. And this was our goal from the start when we created LUMS Energy Institute, that power is something that actually has the most important sector in Pakistan that needs to be worked out and should be looked at in an urgent and emergency way. So for the Prime Minister, now it's the biggest challenge. He cannot sleep, and that's some good news for us because there will be a lot of energy that will be spending, different people under him will be spending on this sector. In terms of our engagements, we were engaged with a number of institutions in the power sector. For those of you who don't know about the power sector of Pakistan, there are about 15 or 16 different public sector entities that make up the power sector. And we started our interaction with the Central Power Purchasing Agency in electricity markets, and then it actually evolved into multiple projects on short and medium-term load forecasting. And then recently we have started work with the NEPRA, which is National Electric Power Regulatory Authority, on studies on improving the efficacy of the power sector. We have a long-standing MOU with the Power Information Technology Company on harnessing data in the power sector. And we have, for the National Transmission and Dispatch Company, we have an MOU that is available, and now it is approved, and we will be now working with them. For the National Power Control Center, we are working on a short-term load forecasting. It's a joint project between CPPA and NPCC. And with the Planning Commission from a funding from USAID, we are working on developing an integrated energy plan for Pakistan. And then finally, we also have been able to work with different private entities, some of the known groups in Pakistan like Fatma and Engro and Hubco, and FIDMIC, which is the Faisalabad Industrial Estate Development and Management Company. I'd like to just mention a little, you can say some numbers here, that our work with FIDMIC was on a project which FIDMIC was developing, and it costed about 31 billion rupees. With the work, which mostly led by Dr. Fayaz Chaudhry, who is our director of the institute, now the PC1 cost is about 13 billion, which is less than half of what it's supposed to be, just by better designing of the grid station for that industrial estate. We also are undergoing under negotiation with a massive effort that is happening in the power sector, and that is to move Pakistan's aging power sector into a new age of electricity markets. And electricity markets requires a whole, you can say, reboot of the power sector. And most importantly, in terms of its thinking, in terms of the way the people approach problems. And that requires a lot of work, which includes not only includes the review and recommendation for new policies, as well as new sectoral studies, software systems that needs to be developed. Some of them that we are developing, others we will be hosting at LUMS Energy Institute, and then a number of advanced training courses that will be carrying out for the power sector. And this is a major undertaking that we are going into, and we hope that with this, the power sector of Pakistan will improve further, because electricity market is something that the government and many other funding agencies are very keen about. In terms of publication, we had a number of peer-reviewed publications in notable journals and conferences. Because of COVID, we were not able to travel, but these conferences were held virtually, and we were able to present a number of papers. I'm not listing all the publications here, but a few highlights are available. And then we have a goal of publishing different reports. So we started out with the electric vehicle policy recommendation, followed by another report on smart grids 2.1, electric utility 2.1. And then we had our flagship report on Pakistan Electricity Outlook 2020 to 25 that actually changed the way the government was thinking about the power sector. And this is one of the major undertakings that we had. And hopefully we'll be publishing a second volume, a second, you can say the second chapter of this report very soon, sometime in this year. Also, in terms of proposals and grants, this was a good year. We have a number of ongoing grants on the left-hand side, which are helping us sustain our operations. And we have submitted a number of new grants, almost 20 of them. And so far, we were able to win 5 grants of various sizes. A number of them are under review, and we are hopeful that some of these grants will actually go through. Some of the grants we were not very successful, but we hope that in future we'll learn from these mistakes and then apply further. So these grants that we have applied range from $10,000 to $10 million. So there's a wide range. What we're trying to do is to apply to every grant opportunity that we find and we apply. And we have developed a new approach of grant writing, that we are not just focusing on core research and development. Because in Pakistan, for core research and development, there are less and less opportunities for grants. So what we are trying to do is to use our startups that we are going to be discussing next, also use our policy development capability, or to do our data collection capability. So whatever is under our umbrella, and we can get hold of a grant that does not, you can say, keep us away from our core responsibility of research and development and commercialization, we try to get that grant. And hopefully, and this is something which is, other centers and other departments at LUMS can also learn from. Also, last year was very active in terms of entrepreneurial activities. We are so far able to spin off about 6 companies from LUMS Energy Institutes in different areas, and from power electronics to energy informatics to electric vehicles to batteries. And most of these companies are already incorporated, and some of them are in the process of incorporation. And almost for all of them, we have been able to raise funding, or they have a cash flow that we can look into and use that cash flow. So the last 2 companies, Newbold and New Watt, are our initiatives in the area of electric vehicles, which is the second part of our talk. So we worked on the electric vehicle policy for the last 2 years. So the timeline is such that in January 2019, we published this report on electric vehicle policy recommendation that was very well received by the government. Then we worked with the Ministry of Climate Change to set some targets for Pakistan for 2025, 2030, and 2040. And then finally, the federal cabinet gives the approval for EV policy concept. And a couple of us were invited to the cabinet meeting in November 2019 for its approval. Later on, that work was given to another Ministry of Industries and Productions for deciding on what kind of incentives should be giving on different kinds of vehicles. This process took some time. They took about 6 months, and we were involved with that effort to give incentives on 2-3-wheeler trucks and buses. And then finally, last December, we had the incentives for four-wheelers and charging stations. So in a way, now the policy is implemented in its full form. So the incentives are available for anybody who like to come and develop an electric vehicle value chain. However, we found out that not many people were interested in developing EV value chain, not in the way or not at a pace we would like it to be. And we thought that maybe this policy will be just like another policy which does not have any outcome. And there were ambitious targets that were given the policy. And kind of, since we were the, you can say, the authors of the, or you can say the developers of those targets, we found it a responsibility that we do something about it. So we picked one particular aspect of electric vehicle, and those were three-wheelers. And we thought that, okay, what can we do to develop an EV value chain for that whole category? So we started with developing an R&D and technology base which we already have at LUMS to some extent. And then we developed two different, you can say, the pathways of developing these vehicles. One is the traditional manufacturing that is available in Pakistan, like electric motors, electric motor control manufacturing, which is an extension of some electronics manufacturing. Vehicle manufacturing, we have a number of three-wheeler manufacturers in Pakistan, and of course the vehicle owners, which are already available. So there is a market here. On the other hand, we realized that there is not many, in fact, not a single lithium-ion battery pack manufacturing in Pakistan. There's one company that LUMS Energy Institute had, Bugbox, but that is mostly for fixed batteries. And they are also in the form, and they're starting their business slowly. And then we thought that rather than fixed batteries, we will be going to swappable batteries, because that actually help us to increase our pace of penetration. And then, of course, there is a whole charging network in terms of battery swapping service that we need to have. So we talked to hundreds of people in the industry. And I think the pandemic time was, you could say, one of the best times for us, because we were able to talk to these hundreds of people either through Zoom or in-person meetings. So whatever it took, we actually went and met different kind of businesses, different kind of industries. And finally, we were able to develop a value chain that we had. We have a company called Songo Motors, which is an EV company from Korea, and we LUMS and Songo has a long-term R&D agreement. And then on the traditional, the existing manufacturing base, we have some companies that agreed with us that they will be working on EV motor manufacturing, the motor control manufacturing, and the three-wheeler manufacturing, which is called Rickshaw in Pakistan. And on the other hand, in terms of battery pack, we found investment to develop a new company for developing lithium-ion batteries. And then further along, another company, New Bolt, which is for battery distribution and developing the battery swapping service. In total, for New Watt and New Bolt, we were able to raise about $5 million investment. And for the other three, which are already into business, they committed another million or so. So that was not bad, because the total investment that we raised in Pakistan last year in 2020 was $47 million. And with that, we thought that we will be able to kind of accelerate the pace of electric vehicle development in Pakistan. And to do that for the first time, we are going to be launching a pilot project with all these partners. There are 6 companies in total, and LUMS is, of course, as the backbone of R&D. We'll be launching the first pilot project in April of 2021, just 2-3 months down the road, with about 100 vehicles and 8 swapping stations. And this is going to be in Lahore. We already have the money is already invested, so about $500,000 that our consortium partners have already spent to order all the equipment and develop all the software. So in future, our sustainability plan is the next, because our seed funding is running out this year. And the good thing is that LUMS have a new proposed policy for sustaining centers, where 35% of LUMS overhead will be given to centers to sustain their operations from whatever grants they win. So out of the LUMS overhead, 35% will be given to centers. So that's a good news. And then we are working with CPPA and other organizations for training, software development, other research endeavors that we are going to be carrying out to get more money. And finally, we are thinking about and creating an endowment fund, which is actually part of our proposal, so that the fund is able to sustain our operations for a longer period of time. Uh, Furthermore, we are looking into venturing some other areas of energy, which we have already ventured to in a way, but we think that we need more work in that area. So, for example, the gas to electricity conversion. We have a shortage of gas in Pakistan, the natural gas, and then we have an excess of electricity. So one goal is to convert the natural gas loads to electricity so that we can save gas and do not have to import a lot of gas in terms of LNG. And then battery storage. So we have a couple of startups in battery storage, but we are also looking into more hardcore aspects of battery storage, like, for example, battery degradation models, as well as grid storage models, and looking for battery storage for grid stability and ancillary services and other things. Furthermore, we are working on the integrated energy plan for Pakistan. Yeah, there is a prospective USAID project where we'll be involved in this plan with the Planning Commission. And finally, we also looking at environmental sustainability, where we are looking at different ways of improving the environment. So EVs and other things are direct, you can say, beneficiary for the environment. But other things, for example, environmental monitoring. So one of the projects that we have won is actually to monitor the project using the EVs. And so that's a special temporal monitoring. So we'll be venturing more into those areas as well. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk more about it in our session during the IB meeting. Thank you very much.